Yeah, a lot of languages. So in C, if you put an ampersand there, then it actually passes by reference rather than by value. And if you lack that ampersand, it passes by value. In Java, it automatically puts that ampersand there. Well, there's no such thing as an ampersand in Java, but it's as if there was an ampersand there for everything except primitive types. Primitive types are passed by value on the stack. Everything else is passed by a reference on the stack. And so it's as if there's always ampersands there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if you had a primitive type, how would you actually change it? Like, since it's automatically passed by value, how would you change the value of it?
So it depends what you mean. The shortest answer is you don't, you can't. Now, obviously you can change primitive types, right? If I have this x right here, I can just say x equals null, right? That's me changing that value, right? That's changing its stack value, what's on the stack. So yes, you can change it, but I have no power within foo to change the value of obj, because I don't have obj. I have this copy of obj called x. And I can change my copy to my heart's content, and I can follow that copy out there onto the heap where we have common stuff, and I can muck with the common stuff. But I can't muck with what's on the stack below me because foo doesn't know about it, doesn't even have access to it. And sometimes there might be different stuff on the stack below it because some other function might call into foo. So what you want to do is kind of impossible. What you can do is you can leave a note here that says something to the effect, some encoded form of, yo, please change yourself. And then when the caller sees that message, he'll say, oh, you want me to change myself, and then we'll go ahead and change yourself. So there's coding ways of accomplishing it, but there's no way that foo can directly mess with the local variables inside of main. Answer those questions? Okay. While you code, please do your best to think about what's on the stack and what's on the heap. Keep track of your memory. If in your head what's going on matches what's actually going on in memory in the computer, you're all over the code. You own the code is yours. It will behave the way you're trying to tell it. If you're guessing at magic incantations, I heard somewhere that this might work, type, 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 type. Guess what? It might, and it might not. And the more stuff you type, the more probability that there is. If there's a 50% chance that this line will work, and a 50% chance that that line will work, what's the odds that they'll both work? 25%. You know how the odds decay exponentially? Basically, the odds of working code approach zero very, very quickly the less you understand your code. So you really, really should know what every last bloomin' symbol means and why, and try to get to that. I want you to not just understand your code. I want you to know what it does operationally at the functional level inside the hardware, inside of your machine. And when we achieve that, then you really are programming right. And then we expand into other applications, and then you can do anything. So getting what's under the hood is the secret to becoming a great programmer. Please take the time to do it. You get your assignment working, you don't turn it in. You sit around and you stare at it for a while. You think about it. You see how much you know. You realize you have some questions. You show up to class and you ask those questions. That's what I want you to do. So if you can, try to really get it. And if you don't get it, that's not good enough. Try to really get it. Okay? Thank you very much. Let's move on to doing the assignment, because that's what we really need to cover today. Are we good? Any other questions? Okay. Close a bunch of windows so I don't get confused. And here we find the assignment. Make a tube. I think everybody can do that. Clean up your code. Everyone can ignore that step, although you shouldn't. Make your model hold an array list of tubes. I basically tell you how to do it, so I think everybody's getting that step. We're okay? Questions about array lists? For your knowledge, when you put a type name inside of angle brackets and it becomes part of the whole darn type, that's called generics. Generics enable you to write a class that can utilize other classes as if you had written lots of classes. It's a darn useful thing, but basically if you ignore it, it kind of just goes away. Make the view draw all of your tubes. Everybody getting that? Okay. Add a tube wherever the user clicks. I think people are getting that. Add a method to detect when the user clicked on an existing tube and be able to remove it. This is where I think a lot of people are having trouble. Shall we just do it together? Okay. Let's see. Let's talk about how we design the solution to this. How's it going to work? We want to figure out if the user just clicked on a tube, what's your code going to do? So most of you, I think, are thinking, I'll guess because no one's talking, I'm going to write a loop that's going to visit every single tube. And inside of this loop, I'm going to have to check whether this click was inside of that tube. And if it was inside of that tube, then I'm going to have to remove the tube. Is that kind of right? Well, that's right. That's pretty much what you have to do. One thing you really never want to do in coding, though, is code up the whole darn thing in one place. If you do that, you're making a great big mess. I hope you didn't go into your controller and basically the answer is not. Okay, the answer is, but don't do it anyway because it's awful practice. Don't come into here and go into mouse pressed. And whenever you press, have a big for loop here that visits all the tubes, and in there have all the code to detect whether it's in the tubes, and inside of that have remove it from the model. Because if you do that, you're going to have a whole bunch of indirections here. You're going to be accessing controller.model.tube.for.x position and things like that. And you're going to basically have a big, oh, hey, there's my notes of what to cover today. You're going to have a big spaghetti mess of code, right? Is that what's happening to you guys? Bad, I slap you on the hands, repent, write better code. Okay, here's how you write better code. What pieces of this can we simplify away? Can we abstract? Let's, yeah.
You can just filter through the array list of tubes to see, like get the X and Y position and span the tube for the dimensions to see if the click was within that range.
Yeah, nailed it. So this whole function would be really easy to write if we had the capability of asking a tube, hey tube, I clicked right here, is that inside of you? I mean, wouldn't it be nice if we had that function? Because if we did, then this whole function would be a lot easier to write. With me? So, since it would be nice to have that function, let's start there and go cause ourselves to have that function. So I'm going to come into my tube class. And I'm going to add a method that says Boolean. Why a Boolean? Because I'm going to return true or false. Yes or no, that click is in me. What should I call my method? Is that click in me? How about? You can call your functions whatever you want. If your function is darn descriptive, you will always not forget what it means. You will never forget what it doesn't. Never mind. We're going to need to know where you clicked, right? Now, if you're listening to the panel rather than the J-frame, then that click will actually be where you did click, so that would be a good starting point. Now, I want to know where the tube is. Tubes have a X position and a Y position, right? How about mouse X and mouse Y, so I'm being explicit. Explicit is good. Did I click inside of that tube? Well, I hate to be this... You're going to hate me for this. I'm being rude to you, but here's a tube. Kind of looks like a tube, right? Here's a spot to click. Is that inside of the tube? No, why not? Because if we look at the bounding box of the tube, now what about these margin spaces right here and there? You have to worry about those? You can if you want. Basically, I don't care. Let's just call the whole box the tube, right? So if you click inside of here, you're clicking on the tube. I am happy with that, and that'll be so much easier to code up. So why is this not in the tube? How do you know? Prove it. Because this has a mouse X and a mouse Y position, and I stomped all over my dot. Here, switch to that mode. And mouse X is less than, the tube also has an XY position, right? And the XY position of the tube is right there. Because MX is less than X, that's why that dot is not inside of the tube. Don't you agree? I mean, that's the reason. No other reason suffices, because Y is between the range it should. It's just X is less than that X. Therefore, that's why it's not in the tube. So if we do something like, if mouse X is less than X, return false. We have nailed that case. And therefore, we will no longer, anything that's left of the tube, we'll say pink is now covered. We have handled that case. Okay, now what about there? Am I inside of the tube? No, Dr. Gashler, you're an idiot. Why is this not inside the tube? Is it not because if mouse X is more than X plus width, return false, right? I mean, if mouse X is more than the X of the tube plus the width of the tube, then I did not click inside of the tube. And that's going to handle this case. And you see where I'm going with that, and you can generalize to the entire solution, right? Yes?
Is width a function?
Nope, width is a non-existent thing I just stuck in to be non-specific. And wow, on that screen, that light pink actually looks like really dark purple. Let's replace it with that. There we go. Didn't realize that till I turned around. Okay, where are we going to get width? Yeah, so I'm going to come here to A2C, color tube. I'm going to open tube in my favorite editor and discover that the tube has 55 pixels of width and 400 pixels of height. Therefore, I can come down here and say width is 55. Is that what it was? Which one was it? Yeah, 55. Now, it's not great practice to have magical numbers in your code, because you'll come along later and you'll say 55, why 55? And you'll pull your hair out wondering why 55 magically makes it all work. That's called a magic number. A better solution is to say int width equals 55 and then never touch width. And in Java, you can make it so you can't touch something by saying final. Final means if I ever touch this, make a compiler error. Nice little convenient way of saying, and don't let me touch this. And so now I can come down here and say width anytime I want. In C, the word is const, but that has slightly different meaning. Final means throw a compiler error if I ever change it. And then obviously we're going to do the Y for the bottom and the top. And finally, if you're not to the left and you're not to the right and you're not above and you're not below, where are you? You have clicked on the tube. Therefore, we have now written a function that says, if you clicked on me. Okay, so we're back in the controller. And now we want to write our function. It's a lot easier, right? All we have to do is loop through all the tubes and ask each one, did I click on you? 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 And then we've done our job, right? Don't put your for loop right here. Why? Because you're in the controller. The controller shouldn't know about tube. The controller knows about mouses and keyboards. The controller knows about controlling. The controller doesn't know about your model, right? Now, I mean, it can. You can make it do whatever you want, but then you're not doing modular design. The whole idea is put things where they belong. So if we instead say, yo, model, e dot get x, e dot get y. This is what the controller is really supposed to do. It's going to say, oh, I got to click. Model, handle this. And sometimes you want the view to handle it, right? Because like if you want to move the screen around, that's the view. Whereas if you want to mess with what's going on internally, that's the model. So the controller's job is really just to handle the clicks. So I have just told myself to go write a function named mouse pressed in the model. So let's open my model. And now if I try to compile, it will yell at me until I write a void mouse pressed int x int y function. Notice I'm giving my variables more simpler names because now I'm being more general. And now how am I going to do it here? I'm going to say for int I equals 0, I is less than tubes.size I plus plus. Tube t equals tubes.getI. And then I'm going to say t dot, did I click on you? X comma y. And I'm sure I misspelled that and it won't compile and deal with it. Oh wait. If did I click on you? Because it's going to return true or false, right? And if I did, then it's basically a matter of remove it from the list, otherwise add a new one.